sometimes I wonder because I've gone into, like a Men's Warehouse and they have like, a suit for $300 and, the price, if an ounce of gold is $900, we're talking about a suit that's $300, but the price of that suit has gone down so much because of the outsourcing of the jobs and the globalization. I mean, the suits are now being made in Indonesia for $1 a day. It's an irony to the situation. And I wanted to ask you as well, before we start taking some questions from our viewers, we have, and if you want to go and you wanted to ask your question, go to auditthefed.com. There's a form on the front page there you can fill out, and our administrators will be taking your questions in the back end. So auditthefed.com, go and submit your questions. Now we have Federal Reserve notes, and then there's Treasury notes, U.S. notes. What is the difference between the two, or the three, I should say?
What's the selection again, Gary?
Federal Reserve notes, U.S. notes, and Treasury notes.
Well, the Federal Reserve notes, they're easy. They're just pieces of paper with nothing behind them, except the power to tax. The Federal Reserve notes, their value is backed by the federal government, which means that it doesn't preserve their value, but it means that if you have let's say a bond, a government bond that's to be paid in Federal Reserve notes, and let's say it's a $1,000 bond, and you are informed that that's a good investment because no matter what, the federal government is going to pay that because it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. And that makes people feel kind of rosy. Oh, that's wonderful. The full faith and credit of the United States government. Where do they get the power to back anything? And the answer is through taxation. So what people are really hearing is that when they buy these bonds, it's a good investment supposedly because the government will pay that bond back. If they have to take everything you have from taxes in order to do it, they will pay that bond back, by golly. So they take it from you in order to pay you. That's the only thing backing the Federal Reserve note is the power to tax.
The U.S. note. The U.S. note. Now, I'm referring to like the Kennedy dollar that was produced after Executive Order 1110. What do you know about that?
Well, I know a little bit about that executive order, and that's another thing. But about the note itself, the U.S. note is I don't believe, as I get my numbers right, they're not backed by gold or silver either, because that would be a gold or silver certificate. So the U.S. note is no different in its ability to pay you something of value than a Federal Reserve note. They're both based on the power of taxation. The only difference is that there's no interest paid to the banks on the creation of the U.S. note, which is some difference, but it's still not a good piece of money because it doesn't have anything of value behind it.
Now, Ron Paul's got a bill out. I'm sure you know HR 1207, excuse me, and HR 1207 is going to audit the Federal Reserve. It's already got about 71 co-sponsors. The numbers are increasing. It's in committee. What can we expect out of an audit of the Federal Reserve? Has the Federal Reserve ever been audited in the past?
The Federal Reserve has never been externally audited. I'm sure they have their own internal audits all the time to make sure that the books are balanced. But it's never been externally audited by any private group, or certainly not by the government itself, which is a dead giveaway as to its total independence of the government. If it were a government agency, they wouldn't have to pass a law to audit it, you see. But it's not a government agency. It's never been audited. Okay, but I guess you know, since you've read my book and you've been a great fan of it, and for that I'm greatly appreciative. But I guess you know I'm not really on one of those people that say we should audit the Fed. And I'm not opposed to that, by the way. I think it's a good move to raise public consciousness. But in my book I say the Federal Reserve does not need to be audited. It needs to be abolished. We don't need to audit the mafia. We need to get rid of it. You see, I don't understand what this auditing is all about. I think an audit, what we can expect is that it'll take 2 or 3 years, and it'll come up with an amazing conclusion that, the Federal Reserve is not doing anything wrong. Its books are clean. We found a little discrepancy there, a little discrepancy there. But wouldn't you know, the Federal Reserve is doing everything it's supposed to do by law. That's what we're going to find out. In the meantime, people are going to say, we're doing something. It's a feel-good. It's a feel-good measure. It makes us feel like we're doing something, but we're not. We need to abolish the Fed.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I believe that the Federal Reserve needs to be abolished. I do, though, think that for the public, it's hard for them to say, "Oh my God, abolish the Fed," and they get all nervous and jittery, and they go back and watch American Idol and have microwave popcorn. I think that the audit the Fed terminology is kind of a soft introduction, I believe, to the general public. I think that's why we're seeing so many co-sponsors joining onto this bill. I'm wondering, though, do you think that that an audit would bring, maybe a good first step to introducing the transparency and then ultimately abolishing the Fed? Do you think it's a good first step?
Well, I hate to sound negative on this because I want to support this movement. I want to support all the people that are up in arms about the Federal Reserve, and I will support that in every way I can. And I know Congressman Paul is behind this movement, and I'm sure he has thought all this through. And I imagine he came to the same conclusion you just mentioned, that it's a softer way of raising public awareness of the Fed and focusing on the Fed as an issue, whereas previously nobody even talked about the Fed. So I'm all on board for that part of it, but I just have to express my reservations that I think the public is coming to the point rapidly now where they're ready to hear this expression, abolish the Fed. I noticed when Congressman Paul was on the campaign trail, whenever the issue came up to abolish the Fed, the place went wild with cheers.
Oh, yes.
I don't think you need to worry about softening it anymore. And and besides, if the movement delays any kind of real solution, not only delays it but forestalls it and prevents it, then it could be a problem. But anyway, having expressed those concerns, and why I say don't audit the Fed, abolish it, I'm still on board, and I'll help in any way I can.
All right, Ed, we're going to jump to a quick break, and when we return, we're going to take some questions from the viewers. So we will be right back with Ed Griffin on the Reality Report. All right, welcome back to the Reality Report. We're talking with Ed Griffin, the author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. We were having a great discussion about the Federal Reserve, about its inception, where it's going. We're talking about the new bill that's been introduced by Ron Paul with 71 co-sponsors, H.R. 1207, to audit the Fed. Ed, let's jump into some viewer questions. I know we've got a lot of people watching right now. We've got so many questions coming in. Let's just go right into Brittany. Brittany in York is asking, how do you feel about purchasing gold and silver right now?
I always feel good about purchasing gold and silver, whether it's now or last year or 10 years ago. Every time I have a little money left over that I don't really need, I prefer to consider gold and silver as my savings account. I don't recommend that people buy gold or silver as an investment, but as insurance or as savings. It's true that under some circumstances you can do very well investing in gold and silver, especially when the markets go up. But inevitably there's a correction, and the markets do come down. But if you stand back 5 years or longer and look at the charts on gold and silver, in spite of the ups and downs, you see a definite trend. It's a pretty straight trend, and it means that your purchasing power is being preserved.